Hi there guys, welcome to today's hypnosis lesson. In this lesson we're going to start putting together some of the stuff that we've been talking about so we can use it in a real practical application to help people remove their phobias really quickly. Now there's lots of ways that people try and cure phobias, but none of them are effective as the NLP fast phobia cure. Now there's kind of two versions of the phobia cure. We're going to learn the original one today. I will give you the more updated version later. But I really want you to learn them both. I find the other one, the newer one, is more effective, but a lot of clients, there's a piece in it where you get them to do something and some people just can't do it. They really struggle with it. So if you had that one and nothing else, you'd be a little bit of a loss when it gets to that point. So that'll all make sense when we talk about the updated version on another lesson. But today, I want to give you this one because it is effective. It's really easy to understand, it's easy to do, and everything that is included in this, you've kind of done it already. We talk about the idea of going from being associated to, I've been saying disassociated, but I'm pretty sure it's actually dissociated. So the idea of moving from first person to third person. We also talk about changing the qualities of the way that we visualise things, so we're changing the sub-modalities of the visual image. And these things all have the cumulative effect of changing the emotional attachment to something. When you kind of pile them on top of each other, they eliminate phobias really quick. Now, most people really struggle with the idea of thinking it's possible to get over a phobia just kind of bang like that. Using this technique, it is possible, but you really need to explain to a client why that is so. So when someone comes to me and they've got a phobia, the first thing I do is explain using a little metaphor, what's going on inside their mind and why what I'm going to do is going to completely eliminate that in one session, just in about half an hour. So first of all, I say, for whatever reason, doesn't matter the reason, but your brain has made a connection between something and the idea of fear. Now, whatever that thing might be, it doesn't really matter. Your brain just has this stimuli, which in your case might be heights, and then that goes heights equals fear, and you get that response every time. Your brain never ever forgets to do that response. It's become completely automated for you. And it's very much like playing an old vinyl record. The needle's stuck in the groove and it's doing the same thing over and over again. And you try and deviate from it, but it's stuck right down deep in that groove. It just keeps on playing the same record. What we're going to do today is almost like scratching the hell out of that record. So no matter how much we try, we can never ever play it the same again. So we're cutting this connection. So now this stimuli, which in this case is heights, could be spiders, could be the dark, could be anything, it no longer triggers the emotional response of fear. We scratch the record, it cannot play the same again. It's a really simple technique to do it, and not only is this easy to do, but once someone kind of understands it and they've gone through it a few times on their own, which you're going to guide them to do, they can do it themselves at home. Now, it does have an accumulative effect. So you do it once and their phobic response will go down. You do it over and over again and it will keep on going down. So it's a really useful thing to teach someone so they can do it once they've gone away. And also if there's anything else that bothers them, they can do it in that situation too. So you should only ever have a client come to you once for anything to do with fear or phobias or any of that kind of stuff. You should teach them this technique, so if they need to do it anymore, they can do it themselves, and if they have any other things that they're scared of in the future, they can just pull this little technique out and do it on themselves whenever they need to. So, let's take a little look through the process. Firstly, we need an event which the person has the phobic response about, and it's usually something that they can remember. It doesn't have to be the first time it happened or anything like that, but if it's a particularly nasty one, that's really useful. And we also need a time before that and a time after that. So you get them to remember something, and so I want you to remember a time when you felt completely safe, comfortable, happy, confident before that event, then the event happened, and then go to a time afterwards where you felt completely safe, comfortable, and wonderfully relaxed. So they feel great. Phobic response, they feel great. Now, what you'll find with most people is there's a little bit of a time between those two. So let's say if our phobia was having to get up and speak in public. It's a really common phobia. The time of feeling comfortable before that is not going to be standing at the side of the stage waiting to go in and do it. We're not doing the thing yet, but we'll already be anxious about it. So we want to go back a little bit further. So you might go back to you know, the day before or the week before, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You just need to get to a time where before the event they're comfortable. Then we've got the event, and then afterwards, some people are a little bit shook up after they've gone through a traumatic experience. So maybe we've got a few minutes after for them to kind of calm down a little bit before we get to the event afterwards. So we've got before, feel great, the event, feel terrible, afterwards, feel great. So those are the three situations, and you're going to be able to play through this sequentially. So now you need to set the scene. You have your client imagine that they are sitting in a theatre or a cinema. And get them to imagine they're sitting right in the middle of the theatre and they're watching the screen. And on the screen, it's a huge, huge screen, but it's completely white. There's no picture at all. But right down in the corner, really, really tiny, there is a black and white video playing of that sequence of events. But we're not going to play that just yet. At the moment, it is paused on that first image, so right at the beginning of the video. Next, I want you to get them to dissociate or disassociate. I'm not sure which is right. I think it's dissociate. So get them to step out of their body, just as we did when we talked about modelling. So they're going to float out of their body and they're going to go all the way up over the seats behind them until they get to the projection booth. So now they are imagining that they're in the projection booth, and from there they're going to watch themselves in the cinema rather than looking at the screen. And that other version of them that is sitting in the cinema is looking at the screen. And there's another third version of them up on the screen. Now, for some clients, if it's a particular traumatic event, rather than going up to a projection booth that's up here, go off to the side, so you're kind of behind a wall, so they can't see the actual thing. They can just see themselves, and then they can see the screen. So they can't actually, they can't see around the corner, whereas in their projection booth, they could just look directly at the screen. So it's normally enough. But it's kind of this double dissociation technique going on. So that's the setting. That's how you need to get somebody. And the start point is the beginning where they feel fine. We've already reduced the screen down very small, so we've fiddled with the sub-modality of the visual image. It's already black and white, so we've drained out all of the colour. So you can see how techniques you've already learned, which manipulate the emotional attachment to something, are coming together here to be able to change the way someone feels about a very traumatic experience. So we're changing phobias. The next thing we do is we play the movie through in black and white while they imagine they are watching the other version of them watching the actual movie on the screen. And we play it all the way through in black and white to the end. And when we get to the end, it freeze frames again. So we're going to stick the image on the last image. So it stops on a picture of them feeling comfortable after the event. At this point, we tweak the modalities. And you turn the picture white. So you either turn up the brightness until it all goes white, or you affect the contrast until it's all completely white and bleached out. So the person is now looking at a completely white picture. The next thing we do is we want to associate ourselves into it. So you get them to imagine they've gone from the projection booth and they've floated down and merged into their body that's sitting in the theatre. We've done this before when we talked about modelling. It's exactly the same technique. Just float down and merge in, or step inside. The next thing is that version of themselves sitting in the seat floats up into the screen, into the third version of them, which is a still image after the event, and they feel completely comfortable. So they've merged into themselves. They're now in the movie. So get them to imagine that, but it is freeze frame. The next thing is really important. We're going to run the movie backwards from the last point all the way through the traumatic event in reverse to the first point, to the first comfortable place. Now you've got to do this quick. You want to do the whole thing in a couple of seconds. So I tend to tell my clients they're going to do it really fast. I'll count down 3, 2, 1 and click my fingers. They're going to zoom back to the beginning in just a few seconds. So what I tend to do is go 3, 2, 1, whoosh, all the way back to the beginning. So it's kind of whoosh, like that. This has got to happen backwards. And it really helps if before you start the session, you get the client to move around backwards. So get them to walk around the room backwards a little bit, do it with them. It's kind of a little bit of fun, but just get that idea of moving backwards into their mind. Now, if during the event people are eating food, then they'll be taking the food and putting it back on the plate, that kind of thing. If someone's talking, it'll all be gobbledygook, everything will be done backwards, animations will be backwards. If somebody's falling, they'll be flying upwards. If they're jumping, they'll be zooming backwards. Everything is in reverse. So they imagine they're being pulled backwards through this event to the beginning, and it's all 3, 2, 1, whoosh, back at the beginning. So you do this a few times. Now, it's really, really important that before you start, you gauge the phobic response. So you will say, from 0 to 100, how much are you scared of this thing that bothers you? And they'll give you a number, normally 80, something like that. Now, as you go through this, it has an accumulative effect, so it will reduce that number. So the first time you do it, they might say, 65. So you've moved that fear response down, but don't go sending them away because they've still got the phobia. You haven't eliminated it, you've just made it a bit easier to deal with. Everyone's got different levels of fears. So you then, from the beginning, you then say, right, I want you now to teleport to the end. So we're not going through it forwards, they are teleporting to the end. So just bang, straight back at the end again, freeze frame. 3, 2, 1, whoosh, whoosh, all the way back to the beginning. So they whiz back to the start again. Each time they go through this thing backwards, that number goes down. So you keep on doing this. Keep asking for feedback. Next, we want to start introducing some more things that are going to really help this. So you put them back right at the end again. And this time, we're going to start introducing some music. So this time, get them to whiz through it backwards. But as they do, get them to imagine some music playing in their minds. Some circus music, that kind of thing. So anything that sounds really, really silly and ridiculous to them, just have that ridiculousness going through their mind as they whiz backwards, then put them back at the end. And now start tweaking and changing different things. Now, when the original Phasophobia cure was developed, this bit I'm talking about now didn't kind of exist, and it's not in the new Phasophobia cure, but it's something that I've kind of find with my clients that it works. It lowers the number quicker, it gets it to jump down a lot faster and a lot lower. So whizzing backwards, imagining silly music. Whizzing backwards, and if there's anyone talking, imagine they've got silly voices. So whatever they're saying, it's either squeaking, really silly Mickey Mouse or something like that, just some comical, ridiculous voice. So whiz backwards doing that. If there's people in it, imagine that they're really small. They've got great big wigs on, big clown noses or whatever. Now if clowns bother the person, obviously don't do that, but just make it silly for them. So you need to elicit from them what they think is silly. Not what you think is silly, what they think. So do that. They could whiz through the thing with everyone being naked. Whatever is appropriate for them or would make them giggle or laugh. Then teleport them back to the end. So what we're doing here over and over again is from the beginning we teleport to the end, we never go through it forwards, and then from the end we whiz backwards really, really quickly, and each time we do this, I want you to add something new in. Add a new element to it that makes it more ridiculous. And you can do this with any of the modalities that you like. Now, something I've been experimenting with, and on some clients it's effective, on some clients it does nothing at all, is I've said, what's your favourite food? And they told me, and I said, I want you to imagine you're eating that now. Imagine you can taste that in your mouth. And now 3, 2, 1 was backwards, all the way to the beginning, while you've still got that taste in your mouth. Now, for some people, that does nothing. For other people, it drops the number down dramatically. So really do experiment. Some people it works, some people it doesn't. Same with smells. Get them to smell something they really enjoy, a nice perfume from an old loved one, anything like that, and just whiz back from the beginning. So you're manipulating their senses over and over again while going through this thing backwards over and over again. It's incredibly effective. Now, what you'll find is once you've gone through this several times, a couple of things will happen. First of all, you're going to get down to 0 and the event doesn't bother them anymore. But also, if you go through this a few times, you're teaching them how to do it, so they can take it away and they can use it themselves, as I was saying. So I would suggest that after the session, say, look, you've learned this technique now, you've got it for the rest of your life, you can use it anytime anything's bothering you, and it will just completely eliminate any fear, so you'll be able to really go forward with confidence. But I just want to quickly go over the bits that we didn't do several times, so just reiterate the important parts of the beginning and the whole setup and all that kind of stuff, rather than the piece in the middle that we've done over and over and over again that they're bound to remember. Make sure you get them to acknowledge the idea of being disassociated from themselves by stepping out twice when we go through the image at the beginning. Some people will forget that part. So that's Phasophobia Cure version 1. It's incredibly effective. I don't think I've ever had a client that hasn't responded to it, but I do like the second one. I tend to think it works quicker and it just seems to be better. So I'm going to go through that one on another lesson for you, but I want you to know and use them both. So do practice this one as well as the other one, because you'll get some clients that work in different ways. This one's really quite visual. If you get a client that just can't visualise any of that stuff, they'll have problems. The other one really isn't visual at all, so it works really well for people who connect with their feelings. So I'll see you in the next lesson. You take care and bye-bye.